A man hides in a winepress, beating wheat in secret while fear grips the land. Raiders could crest the hill at any moment. Then a stranger stands beneath the oak and speaks. "The Lord is with you, mighty man of valor." Gideon looks behind him, certain the words are meant for another. His clan is weakest, he is the least. Yet this hidden encounter under warm afternoon light would birth one of Scripture's most astonishing victories. A story most believers have forgotten. For 7 brutal years, the Midianites swept over Israel like locusts. Their camel hordes devoured every harvest. Livestock vanished. Families huddled in mountain caves, barely surviving. The once fertile valleys lay stripped bare. Israel cried out to the God of their fathers. In this season of forgotten promises and grinding poverty, heaven prepared a deliverer from the most unlikely soil, the tribe of Manasseh, the family of Joash. The oppression was complete. Grain hidden in pits, bread baked in secret. Children grew thin. The people remembered Egypt but forgot their own deliverance. A prophet had already come with stern words of rebuke. Now the angel of the Lord arrived not in a temple, but beside a winepress, where one frightened farmer tried to feed his family. The stage was set for a revolution no sword could accomplish alone. Gideon felt the stranger's gaze before he heard the greeting. He kept working, hoping to remain invisible. The angel sat beneath the oak and waited. When Gideon finally looked up, the words came again. "The Lord is with you." Gideon answered with the pain of years. "If the Lord is with us, why has all this happened? Where are the miracles our fathers told us about?" The exchange that followed would alter Israel's destiny. Gideon prepared a young goat and unleavened bread. He brought the humble meal on a rock. The stranger touched it with his staff. Fire sprang up and consumed everything. In that instant, Gideon understood who had visited him. Terror replaced doubt. The angel vanished, but peace replaced the fear. Gideon built an altar right there and called it, "The Lord is Peace." The first step of his hidden calling was complete. That same night, the voice returned. "Tear down your father's altar to Baal. Cut the Asherah pole beside it. Build a proper altar to the Lord and offer your father's bull." Gideon took 10 servants and moved under cover of darkness. By morning, the village discovered the broken altar and the fresh sacrifice. They demanded blood. Joash, his own father, defended him with a challenge. "If Baal is God, let him plead his own case." The broken altar earned Gideon a new name, Jerubbaal. Let Baal contend with him. News of the act spread. When the Midianites, Amalekites, and eastern peoples crossed the Jordan like a swarm, the Spirit of the Lord came upon Gideon. He blew the trumpet. Men from Manasseh, Asher, Zebulun, and Naphtali answered. 32,000 gathered. Yet God looked at the host and saw something Gideon could not yet see. Gideon laid a fleece of wool on the threshing floor. If dew covers only the fleece while the ground stays dry, he would know. Morning came and the fleece was soaked. He wrung out a bowl full of water. Still doubt lingered. He asked again, this time reversed. "Let the fleece stay dry while dew covers all the ground." The next morning, the ground glistened with dew. The fleece was completely dry. God had answered twice. The massive camp of Midianites filled the valley like locusts. Their camels numbered beyond counting. Gideon stood on the hill overlooking the sea of tents. God spoke clearly. "You have too many men. Israel would claim the victory themselves. Send home any who are afraid." 22,000 left. 10,000 remained. Still too many. God would choose the final number through the simplest test at the water's edge. The 10,000 came to the spring. God instructed Gideon to watch how they drank. Some knelt and put faces in the water. Others brought hands to mouths and lapped like dogs. Only 300 did the latter. "These I will use to save you." The rest were sent home. Gideon looked at his tiny band with their trumpets and empty jars. The Lord whispered, "I will be with you." The real battle was now ready to unfold. That night, God told Gideon to go down into the enemy camp. "Take your servant Purah. What you hear will strengthen you." The two men crept through the vast, sleeping army. Shadows stretched long under torchlight. They stopped beside a tent where a soldier recounted a dream to his companion. A loaf of barley bread tumbled into the camp and struck a tent until it collapsed. The friend turned pale. "This can only mean one thing," the soldier explained. "The loaf of barley bread is Gideon, son of Joash. God has given the whole camp into his hands." Gideon worshipped in the darkness. Courage flooded his heart. He returned to the 300. They would attack not with swords, but with sound and light. Each man received a trumpet, an empty jar, and a torch hidden inside. The impossible strategy was set. The hour had come. The three companies moved silently into position around the Midianite camp. It was the beginning of the middle watch. Gideon gave the signal. They blew their trumpets. They shattered their jars. Torches blazed suddenly in the night. They cried out with one voice, "A sword for the Lord and for Gideon!" The valley erupted. The vast enemy host awoke in panic. The Lord turned every man's sword against his neighbor. The breaking of clay jars echoed like thunder across the valley. 300 torches waved wildly. 300 trumpets blasted without ceasing. The unified shout rolled like judgment. Inside the camp, confusion became terror. Men ran blindly. Camels stampeded. No Israelite sword had yet been drawn. The divine strategy unfolded exactly as the barley bread dream had foretold. The hidden power of God was on full display. The Midianite army dissolved into chaos. Thousands fled toward the Jordan. Gideon called for the other tribes to join the pursuit. Ephraim captured the fleeing princes Oreb and Zeb. The waters ran red at the rock of Oreb. Gideon himself crossed the Jordan after Zebah and Zalmunna, the two kings. The battle that began with broken pottery ended with total deliverance. One reluctant man had led Israel to freedom. The land had rest for 40 years. Gideon refused the offer to become king. "The Lord shall rule over you." Yet he made one request. Each man gave him a gold earring from the plunder. From the gold, he fashioned an ephod. It stood in his city and eventually became an object of worship. Even the greatest deliverers carried flaws. The man who once hid in a winepress had saved his people, but could not save them from future idolatry. Gideon had 70 sons. His legacy spread through the clans of Manasseh. He died at a good old age and was buried in his father's tomb. The people soon forgot the Lord who had delivered them through him. Yet his story remained preserved in Scripture, a record of divine patience with human doubt. A testimony that God delights in using the smallest, the weakest, and the most hesitant when their hearts turn toward him. What remains most striking is how God never scolded Gideon's questions. The fleeces, the midnight scouting, the trembling hands, all of it was held inside grace. The victory belonged to the Lord alone. The 300 jars, the 300 torches, the 300 trumpets simply created space for divine power to be seen clearly. In our own seasons of hiding and doubt, Gideon's forgotten story whispers that weakness surrendered becomes the very place where miracles begin. The book of Judges presents Gideon as the 5th judge. His name appears in Hebrews 11 among the faithful. He stands beside Abraham, Moses, and David, not because he was perfect, but because he eventually believed. The winepress became a pulpit. The fleece became a landmark of mercy. The 300 became a symbol that numbers never limit the God who calls unlikely people at unexpected times. Today, the same God still looks for those threshing wheat in hidden places, those who feel too small, too doubtful, too late. He still calls them mighty. He still reduces armies and breaks jars so that only his glory remains. Gideon's story is not ultimately about trumpets or torches. It is about a God who sees beyond our fear and writes history through surrendered weakness. The valley of Jezreel still exists. The spring where the 300 were chosen still flows. These places hold their breath, waiting for new generations to remember. Not every calling looks like Gideon's, but every calling asks the same question. Will you trust me with your insufficiency? The answer determines whether we remain in the winepress or step into the battle with nothing but obedience and light. If Gideon's journey from fear to faith stirred something deep inside you, know that these sacred chronicles exist to uncover more such hidden stories. Every week, we bring cinematic retellings of the overlooked moments and unlikely lives that reveal God's heart. Subscribe to Sacred Chronicles HQ and join a growing community passionate about thoughtful Bible storytelling. Turn on notifications so you never miss the next chapter waiting to be revealed. Your presence here keeps these ancient voices speaking,